Hello, guys and gals, me Mutahar, and gaming is just getting way more expensive these days, guys. Now, I want to start off by saying we live in a time of subscriptions and subscriptions and subscriptions. You know, chances are you probably have like 2 or 3 favorite shows you want to watch, and they're probably on different streaming services, okay? So now you got to juggle a Netflix sub, the Prime Video sub, the Apple TV sub, because that Severance show is coming out pretty soon, and I'm pretty hyped for that. So, realistically, all that stuff adds up, and I swear to God, back in like 2007, 2008, the world probably was like, damn, we're getting away from cable television with these subscription services, everything on one platform. Yeah, we never got away. It just became worse. Now, the thing is, I'm not a, TV movie culture channel or anything. I do like video games, okay? And let me tell you something about video games. They're expensive. So to counteract the expensiveness of buying one brand new game, companies like Microsoft, Sony, and Nintendo have released subscription services that come bundled with games. Now, Nintendo, who from my understanding never upped the subscription price for anything, you can pretty much play a back catalog of old Nintendo games everywhere you go. Sony, being a PlayStation kind of guy, I have never once jumped beyond the basic tier of PlayStation Plus because nothing Sony offers in their service, emulated or native, is worth it in my opinion. I just frankly don't care. Xbox was the only gaming subscription that I really actually jumped in because Xbox, for anybody that has followed the entire, brand, has always required a monthly subscription to operate. When you played on the original Xbox all the way to the Xbox 360, the One, the Series, whatever, you always needed a subscription service to play any game online. So recently, Microsoft created Game Pass, and I've actually been a defender of Game Pass. I think it's a great service for people that don't have a lot of money, but they want to play a lot of brand new games day one. I actually thought the whole point of the service was not just having a whole bunch of games, but to actually play new stuff like Starfield, like Call of Duty, like whatever Microsoft would buy day one without paying that $60, $90 or whatever price a game is these days. So anyways, they've been upping the Game Pass price a little bit, and they made some changes in the last couple days. So I wanted to go through them because, it is beyond one of the most confusing changes that I've seen. So basically, if you don't know, Game Pass has 3 different versions, okay? You've got Game Pass Ultimate, Game Pass Core, and PC Game Pass. Now, the wording that Microsoft uses is designed to not, offend anybody. Nobody wants to feel bad for picking the cheap option, but let's go over some of the cheap options real quick. So what they said is they have a price change. July 10th, 2024, updated prices take effect for anybody new jumping in, okay? So if you're buying it now, you got to pay that new price. If you already have the service, September 12th, 2024 is when you'll be waiting, okay? Oh. Well, at least it's a day after, goddamn. The price of recurring charges will change for existing members. So again, ladies and gentlemen, what does Game Pass necessarily consist of? I wanted to go to their website and see what they've got. So if you buy the core option, which is effectively just paying for Microsoft Xbox Live Gold, but they just changed it to core, that gives you the online multiplayer, which in the year 2024, the console community has lost to companies. You guys have to pay to use your fucking bandwidth to play with other players. When PC players, no matter where they are, Epic, Steam, GOG, anywhere, we all just operate freely, okay? Even on Microsoft servers, we operate for free, okay? Playing online at least. You get a catalog of 25 high-quality games and member deals and discounts. Now, I've never understood the concept of paying money monthly to get discounts. Like, Jesus Christ, okay? It never made sense. But anyways, now you got to pay $22 a month. Canadian, by the way. I think it's $20 American, okay? Freedom dollars. You get hundreds of high-quality games. New games on day one, online multiplayer, EA Play, and those fucking discounts. But of course, if you're on the PC side, not the console, the PC guys, we still got games on day one. Slight price hike there. And of course, if you decided to engage with both the Xbox and a computer, well, you're paying $22.99. I guess you get like everything. Now, price hikes for subscription services are not new, okay? They're pretty much commonplace. According to this graphic I dug up from Variety, they basically showcased like streaming services for television, okay? And how it increased. So according in October 2023, Apple went up from $7 all the way to $10, and Netflix Premium went from $20 to $23, Basic went from $10 to $12, Disney and Hulu, well, Disney went from $11 to $14. I've never had Disney Plus, nor have I ever considered getting it because everything on Disney Slop felt like shit. Hulu, don't even get it as a Canadian, $15 to $18? Oh shit. ESPN, you want to see the boys throw around the pigskin? Better be willing to pay the extra dollar. Discovery Plus, no thank you. I'm gonna go watch squirrels out in the real world. But anyways, yeah, everything's been going up. And a lot of it is due to the fact that running a streaming service is not cheap. The internet is getting more expensive to operate. Inflation itself has caused a real serious issue on a lot of like the economies around the world. And generally, the entire world of streaming has shifted from that early day of Netflix, where companies were pretty much expecting to be in the red for months. And most companies that are jumping in now, like Disney, like, you know, any of these newer age streaming companies, are not willing to get fucked in the ass financially, and they just want to be making more money per subscriber, which is why they're willing to risk people canceling their subscriptions. So realistically, it's kind of like the hot air balloon fallacy, where like, or not really a fallacy, it's a strategy, where basically, you know, you just, or I believe it's the frog, right? Like when you're boiling a frog, you don't immediately jump up to like 1,000 degrees, right? That'll kill it. You go all the way from, you know, lukewarm, and you just slowly increase the temperature, you know, as to not disturb, right? When you do that, the people who are subscribing to your platform probably won't care, you know, if they're paying the extra dollar per month, okay? If you do it really slowly over a lengthy period of time. Now, Microsoft increased the price, and I decided to look at some of their actual advertisements, right? So for instance, this is from a month ago when they had their Xbox game showcase, where I actually praised them for the games that they were showing. They showed all these great games like Black Ops 6, Gears of War E-Day, Perfect Dark, Flight Simulator, and they said play day one with Game Pass. Now, I feel like with this branding, they should probably put in the asterisk and say Game Pass Premium, because if you're buying the core version or the basic, get the fuck out of here, buddy. You ain't getting that. Now, because I had to really like look through all of these like lists, because Microsoft just couldn't make an easy comparison graphic, one user on Twitter, actually by the name of Clobril, actually made this graphic, which obviously, you know, could be subject to change. Basically, this is how it works with their Xbox subscription. PC guys, they get free online multiplayer, okay, with the consoles and everything. They don't get that limited catalog of games, but they get member deals, Game Pass, day one games, perks and discounts, EA Play, but none of that cloud gaming bullshit for $12 a month. American, it seems, okay? Great value, I guess. So when you're Game Pass Core, which is basically rebranded Xbox Live Gold, you get the multiplayer, you get those 25 games, and those deals and discounts. Now, if you're buying Game Pass Standard, this is where it gets wild. So the price increases, it's $15 a month. You get the same thing as Core, then you get the Game Pass catalog, so hundreds of games, pretty good stuff. You get to play like Yakuza and everything in there. Day one game editions, not day one, added at a future date. And for some of the insiders, it's like 6 to 12 months almost. So you're going to be waiting a little bit before you get to play some new games. So like we just looked at that graphic with Black Ops 6, who knows if that game's going to be included day one? I really wish Microsoft would explain this because, you know, for a lot of people, they were under the understanding if they had the basic version, it's like, whatever, I get to play all these games day one. Now, if you spend $5 extra a month, which again, this all really does add up. If you do the quick math, the Jaguar math, so to speak, $20 times 12 months is $240, okay? So you're basically paying the price of, I would say, 2, maybe 3 full games, okay? Fully released titles. Which, you know, if you're paying $240 to basically rent your games on a subscription service, you might want to consider just buying the game you're interested in and maybe picking up some games on a physical disc sale down the road, or maybe when a sale actually happens. So looking into it, this is the tier that gets all those brand new games From Xbox Game Studios, Bethesda, Activision, and every select third party day one, okay? And they also get those EA Play perks and discounts and access to the Xbox Cloud Gaming. So $20 a month is where the actual Game Pass should be, okay? Basically, if you're buying standard Game Pass, you're going to have access to whatever slop they throw in, but you're not really going to be here for the big perk of Game Pass, which is having those games day one, unless you're willing to pony up the money for that ultimate fucking tier, which is not the way I expected them to ever be billing this. Now, I'm not going to pretend this is really shocking because honestly, I expected them to be raising the price for some of this stuff down the road, whether they wanted to admit it or not, simply because this is a pretty unsustainable gaming model, right? Like the idea of having people pay money and then buy these big companies like Activision and Bethesda and expect to release their big AAA games day one for free for these players at this price point would be pretty unsustainable, okay? You got to pay those rising game development costs somewhere, okay? Now, I have to imagine this is actually because they don't want to actually even release Call of Duty for like standard players day one. And the reason for that is, Microsoft is in a kind of a scary situation where they bought one of the largest multiplayer games of all time, Call of Duty. And people historically have bought Call of Duty day one, for $60, $90, I guess Canadian a pop, and up from there. So when you're releasing your big game on a subscription service where a chunk of the player population can basically get it for, again, a fraction of the price is a bit scary for Microsoft. And so that's why they're stuffing their new releases into the highest tier, which again, is one of those things that wasn't really expected from my understanding. Now, Microsoft, literally this year, has pretty much said that Game Pass is actually profitable. They actually spend $1 billion to add third-party content, not their own. That is just third-party stuff to Game Pass, okay? Literally, Phil Spencer was saying, we have a service that is financially viable, meaning it makes money in Game Pass. We've put a lot of money into the market, over $1 billion a year supporting third-party games coming to Game Pass, meaning that they go to these actual developers, they tell them, hey, we're going to give you a deal, you come to our service, release your game on Game Pass, and that's how the whole market effectively works. So literally May 28, 2024, a month or two ago, okay, less than 2 months ago at this point, Microsoft was like, you can basically play Black Ops 6 day one on Game Pass, okay? Now, I feel like they should asterisk it now and say, you gotta have the most expensive version, not the cheapo version right there. Now, I really think that this market is very unsustainable because literally as this was happening, Microsoft was shutting down Tango Gameworks, one of my favorite game studios who made one of my favorite games, Ghostwire Tokyo, and again, Arcane Austin. So they are laying off people, shutting down studios as one of the largest companies right there in the market, okay? And at the same time, they're out there spending crazy amounts of money purchasing some of the largest companies out there in the world. Now, this is a list of the largest mergers and acquisitions in the 2020s, okay? So basically, Microsoft and Activision Blizzard are actually ranked number 4, the number 4th highest acquisition of this decade, okay? At $68 billion, $69 billion, whatever funny amount you want to list it off as, right? And if you look at Microsoft's actual history of them acquiring stuff, this is by far the largest fucking acquisition that they have ever done in their entire company's history. Meaning, at one point, the Xbox division, Phil Spencer, whatever, went to the bean counters at Microsoft, went to the big corporate structure of the sky, went right to Redmond, asked them, hey, listen, we consider buying Activision Blizzard. And with Activision Blizzard, imagine what they're getting. They're getting access to King, which is the Candy Crush brand. So a whole bunch of users just on mobile devices. Call of Duty, some of the largest gaming IPs with some of the biggest active monthly users, Microsoft is basically buying. So they ended up buying it for around 69, well, it's written here 75.4 billion, so there's some inflation adjustment. But after that, you've got LinkedIn for 26.2 billion. You've got Skype for 8.5 billion. This is by far one of the largest acquisitions made, not just in the United States, but by far for Microsoft. So again, I have to imagine the amount of money that Microsoft has spent for Xbox has basically caused Xbox from being this cutesy little division that existed within Microsoft to being something where the bean counters, somebody far above Xbox actually came down and basically told these guys, listen, You got to get your shit together and start making the money, okay? Which is why Microsoft has, in my opinion, been a lot aggressive when it comes to raising prices on Game Pass and now locking behind a pretty big selling point of Game Pass to a higher subscription tier service. And honestly, I don't really think that Microsoft is going to go down this road without some form of resistance. I actually think personally Microsoft might have even lied about this. So this is a actual Microsoft legal response to the FTC acquisition merger they were having with Activision and them trying to block Microsoft. Literally page 25 of 30, this is what Microsoft says. The acquisition would benefit consumers by making Call of Duty available on Microsoft's Game Pass on the day it released on console, with no price increase for the service based on the acquisition on Nintendo and on other services that allow cloud streaming. So this line is super wild to me, okay? No price increase for the service based on the acquisition. Now, again, Microsoft could say, it's because of inflation we're making Xbox Game Pass go up. But dog, you don't have the largest acquisition of your entire fucking corporation, Microsoft, and then a price increase is just magically happening around the time the one Call of Duty game is releasing. By the way, that is literally made after your acquisition, or at least, the first major release after your acquisition. That's when a price increase is happening. You can't sit there, okay, and stick your fucking head in the sand and think that there's no correlation to be had. I have to imagine Microsoft straight up lied to the FTC and said we had no idea this was going to happen. Clearly, there is some relationship, okay? There has to be. Now, I don't want to throw Microsoft specifically under the bus. It's not just them upping their subscriptions. Everyone is doing it, which is why I wanted to say this is a problem across the board. Everything is getting more expensive, especially in the world of subscriptions, right? Whether you're in the gaming world, or you're in the movie world, or you're in the music world, it's all getting pricier. And even if you have a company as large as Microsoft, they're not going to be able to absorb the economic blow of running one of the most expensive industries in the world, which is gaming, right? You've got a situation even with Stadia, which was ran by Google of all companies. Historically Google shuts down a lot, but Stadia didn't live past January 18, 2023. These are all ventures, okay? Even if you're backed by the largest dog in the world, you're still not, going to be confirmed to live, at least for even 10 years, right? So again, to go back into this whole Microsoft situation too, what's even wilder is when you look into what Microsoft's plan for the future is, Microsoft is content on getting people into these subscription services. And what I fear the most is losing access to owning some of the games on Xbox. So recently, I don't know if you were watching, Microsoft's been making a huge deal out of people playing Xbox cloud games on Amazon Fire Television, okay? So literally, you don't even need a console. Microsoft is treating Xbox more like a service. And at this point, it really is you don't need the system. You just need to be able to give us your subscription money, connect to us any way possible, and play your games, whether it be over the cloud. And hopefully down the road, you may be able to preserve your games, or a fat stop on that. Microsoft recently released Starfield for the Xbox, which is a fully single-player game. The physical disc, however, does not contain the entire physical game, all right? Especially comparing it to Rockstar, which released Red Dead 2 on multiple discs, Square Enix, which released Final Fantasy Rebirth on multiple discs, Microsoft, one of the largest companies in the world, by the way, sometimes the largest, does not think of spending the extra minute fraction of a fucking dollar, really, whatever money it might cost them at bulk, to preserve one of their big IPs, Starfield at this point, for the rest of the gamers. They're just content on people downloading from their servers forever. You're talking about a game company which their newest Call of Duty title literally relies on actual streaming on the internet, a full connected experience, just to play the single player because of streaming texture bullshit, okay? This is not a company that cares about preservation. This is a company that cares about turning video games into a subscription model and, slowly hiking that up and basically, in my opinion, lying on their branding from time to time too. This whole thing about Game Pass was trying to get these games day one. And now with these price hikes and the fact that the service is overall diminishing in quality, I just don't really know what the future is. But I think it's kind of telling for the entire gaming world that If the largest company in the world cannot figure out a sustainable model for monetizing video games, then maybe there is just a crash that's incoming, okay? With all the layoffs, the fact that gaming budgets have ballooned to a level that is unheard of, and the fact that, game franchises take literal decades to release now. We're not sitting at a point where Mass Effect 1 comes out at the beginning of the 360's lifespan, and it gets a trilogy like Mass Effect 2 and 3 by the tail end of the 360's lifespan. No. We're talking about Grand Theft Auto 6 comes out during the PlayStation 5's generation, and you're not going to get Grand Theft Auto 7 until like PlayStation fucking 7 or 8. Or if PlayStation even makes, generation releases in the future. That's how weird things have gotten. But yeah, I wanted to talk about it because it is just something that was on my mind. There was a lot to consider, and I had to pull up receipts like crazy. But yeah, ladies and gentlemen, this is me, Mudahar, and if you like what you saw, please like, comment, and subscribe. Dislike it if you dislike it. I am out.